it never necessarily helped him in the past. And so I think what we're seeing here is Adam Laxalt taking advantage of a great environment for the Republican Party, and of course in politics, got that backwards. Timing can be everything.
Yeah, and in this case, all those industries that we talked about, tourism, gaming, conventions, they all depend and they thrive during a good economy. People don't go to conventions. They don't take vacations in Vegas if they're struggling with their finances. There's an issue which is evolving in Georgia, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about this, David, whether it applies to other states as well, including Nevada. There are indications that early voting in Georgia has surpassed that of the 2020 campaign, which is highly unusual. I mean, it suggests that people are really interested in this midterm election, and they're turning out in droves. And is it not true that it's generally Democrats who turn out for early voting?
Well, I think that what we have seen this election cycle so far is there are certain Republicans who turn out for early voting, and then a lot of Republicans who wait for Election Day. Former President Trump is obviously a big critic of early voting, a big critic of mail-in voting. He prefers Election Day voting, and so there's a subset of the Republican base that really pays attention to that. Here in Nevada, I've been listening to Republican officials encourage Republicans to just get out and vote. And they stress, I don't care if you do it by mail, I don't care if you use a drop box, I don't care if you vote in person, just please vote. I don't think the old rules necessarily apply. I think what we're seeing is high energy on both sides. That could mean good things for both parties in various races. So the key here is, where are the independents? If the Republicans are turning out in droves, which I believe we're going to see, if Democrats are more energized than you would expect from the party on its heels in a midterm election, then it's really going to come down to independent voters who swing back and forth between the parties every couple of years. And so far, the polling suggests, as we get into mid and late October, that those voters are favoring Republicans.
And David, last question for you. Are there any local issues which are equally important to the national issues, the economy that we're seeing?
Well, I think in different races, there are some issues that will be prioritized by voters more than others, depending on where I'm traveling. But at the end of the day, when I'm talking to voters now in Wisconsin and Ohio, now here in Nevada, I just keep hearing the same thing. It's inflation, the economy, and crime. Sometimes crime comes first, inflation second. Sometimes it's inflation first, crime second. But that's really what's motivating voters when they think about this election. Obviously, when I'm talking to Democrats, they may be more concerned about the state of American democracy coming out of former President Trump's stolen election claims on January 6, 2021. They might be concerned about abortion rights. But the issues that matter most to most voters, it's all about inflation and crime.
David Drucker from the Washington Examiner, just outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. Always appreciate your perspective, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when we come back, has the media lost all ballast? Brett Winterble has been listening to folks in North Carolina. We'll have an answer for him.
One of the happiest days of my life was the day I became a father. Every American parent wants to leave their children and grandchildren with a world better than the one they inherited. The need for Christians to influence our culture has never been greater. As a parent, as a grandparent, each of us can do something to leave a positive legacy for the next generation. We can vote. Make the pledge to vote. Visit myfaithvotes.org today.
I saw Elvis's Bible.
Yep, we have Elvis's Bible, along with Bibles from a number of other kings. But that's just the beginning. Museum of the Bible. What's in it will surprise you.
Who is Elvis anyway?
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. The Lord is my shepherd.
Live on stage at
sight and sound theaters.
It comes as no secret to anybody living in the United States that we live in a deeply divided nation, and a lot of that division comes from the news. Along comes a new Gallup poll, which affirms your belief that the media itself is sending some very mixed messages and feeding those divisions. Quoting from this new Gallup poll, Americans' trust in the media remains sharply polarized along partisan lines, with 70% of Democrats, 14% of Republicans, and 27% of independents saying they have a great deal or a fair amount of confidence in the information they are getting from our mainstream media. We spoke with one of our favorite media hosts, Brett Winterble. I'm sure you hear this day in and day out from your listeners that they are fed up with the media. They simply don't trust the information they're getting.
Without a doubt, the approval numbers of the media have really, I think, never been lower. And people are frustrated by it. It's not just the bias involved here, Doug, but what it is it's the knowing cover-ups that we are all aware of. Look back to the 2020 election and Hunter Biden and the laptop being told that, oh, nothing to see here, don't worry about that. The Russian collusion issues with President Trump and the investigations there. The American people are a fair-minded people by and large, but when you continuously abuse them by telling them what they're seeing is not what they're seeing, they get angry.
Well, according to this Gallup poll, the bias in media largely stems from the left. That's just the hard, cold facts, and it's not news to anybody who really pays attention to this. Again, quoting from the Gallup poll, for the third straight year, the majority of Republicans indicate that they have no trust at all in the media. That's the majority of Republicans have no trust at all in the media. The figure jumped 10 percentage points in 2020 and has been at or near 60% since then. This year, 57% said they do not have any confidence, while 29% say they do not have very much confidence. The Republicans simply don't trust what they're seeing from most mainstream media outlets.
They don't. And look, the reality is, just as recently as this past weekend, you had CBS do a hit piece on talk radio, right? That talk radio is not good for the country. This industry that I'm in, over in the talk radio side of things, is actually the pressure valve that releases the anger in this country. It stops people from getting angry, and it lets people have a voice. People simply cannot pick up the phone and reach Jake Tapper, Joe Scarborough, anybody who's on the cable networks to try to correct the record or talk about where they got stories wrong. In talk radio, you can do that. We enable the people to have their voices, regardless of your political background. And so I'm not surprised that the national news media that leans left, I mean, you only have to look at the reports over the last couple of decades of how the donations flow out of these corporations to understand what we're looking at. I'm not surprised at all that people just don't believe what they're seeing because they're able to verify information independently, and that makes these news outfits very angry.
Well, you're absolutely right, Brett, and you cited a couple of studies which show the skew of donations from media. Let me cite one. A Center for Public Integrity analysis found, this is, by the way, in the 2016 election cycle, so it's now about 6 years old, but analysis found that more than 96% of the donations from journalists to either Clinton or Trump during the 2016 election cycle went to Clinton. 96% of donations from journalists. Now, that might be a little bit skewed because most news organizations prevent their journalists, their employees from contributing to one campaign or another. But among those that didn't, 96% went to Hillary Clinton. Let me go back to another one here. This is really troubling. This is the Washington Post's own analysis from 2020, publication which skews far left. Quote, in our survey from April of 2020, we found that U.S. political journalists are overwhelmingly liberal. Of the journalists who responded to our survey, 78% said that they identified with or leaned towards a certain party ideology. Of those who did say that they identified with a political party, 8 in 10 said they were liberal Democrats. So when you hear these kind of cries, like the one you're making right now, it's based and backed up by fact.
It sure is. And what is so interesting is to see the generational divide, especially today. I happen to have a child who is in college, and I have a child who is in high school just finishing up. And when you talk to these young folks, they know what they believe, they know what their politics are, at least at this stage of their lives. And I don't see any of them watching the big three networks. They're out there doing their own independent digging, relying on independent resources, and that's really what it comes down to. That's the beauty of an organization like TVN, doing fair coverage and digging into the big stories. And that's really what also matters, as I said, in the world of talk radio, where we're held to account every single day, and folks are just a phone button away from getting on the record and correcting it for us if we get it wrong. But the very idea, to put a bow on this, that you would be a working journalist covering Washington, D.C. or big city politics, and you're writing checks to the very masters that are out there moving and shaking in those areas, that's awfully trouble.
Well, it's really interesting how we're seeing this generational divide, which you just pointed out. If you are interested in the truth, it is out there. And it may take a little bit of triangulation, look at this network, look at that network, watch this podcast, or read this blog. But the information and the truth is out there for you.
And it's never been more available than right now. That's the beauty of it.
Right. So you have to do everybody. As somebody said, that everybody is their own reporter. Everybody is also their own consumer. So you have to do a little bit of research. But if you do that research out there, you can find the truth. So that's the good thing about the world, the confused world that we're living in. Brett Witterville, really appreciate your time, sir. Thanks very much.
It was my pleasure.
Energy market turmoil just as winter is coming. We'll speak with an energy expert when we come back.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the number one supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
I love multi-collagen protein, and I've seen huge benefits. I went from having joint discomfort to where now I have freedom of mobility that I did not have. I've been able to work out more. I've had the energy. Ancient Nutrition provides us with the right supplements that we need in order to be strong, healthy, and to do the things that God has actually called us to do.
Call the number on your screen and get a free bottle with your preferred customer order. A value of over $50 free.
When you call and purchase, you are helping to spread the gospel around the world by supporting TVN.
Call the number on your screen or go online now.
God has given us the strength and the calling to be an example so that we can make change in this world today.
We live in a country where we have a voice, and that is our voting. And please do not waste your opportunity and go vote. So do good and go vote.
Do good, go vote.
Listen, do good and go vote. Do good, go vote.
Do good, go vote.
Do good, go vote.
And finally this week, getting ready for the wintertime. It is no secret that even if you have the money to fill your oil tank or propane tank, there still may not be enough to go around. Brigham McCown has a great experience in the field of energy, having been part of the Alaska Pipeline Project. We spoke with him earlier. You can't deal with energy problems in this day and age without referencing the war in Ukraine. I've long maintained that this, at its heart, is an energy war. And the fact that we are experiencing so many disruptions to our fossil fuel supply, in some respects, is an indication of that. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I think for far too long we've looked at energy as purely economic, but as Europe is finding out, and as we've even seen with higher prices at home, energy is a tool. It is a weapon that Russia is being used, and we should treat it as such.
Well, we're even seeing the effects of that in New England. There's a piece I read yesterday that New England here in the United States this winter could suffer blackouts as a result of natural gas shortages and fuel oil shortages. Do you expect that to happen?
Well, I hope not, but to be honest with you, I and other experts are hoping for a warmer winter, quite frankly, in New England, because one of the things that a lot of people may not realize is traditionally we do import oil from Europe, including from Russia, to New England and the Northeast, and that's because we lack adequate energy infrastructure, namely pipelines in the Northeast. And new pipeline projects that come up have been opposed by various groups, and now we're reaping what we've sowed.
Well, is that a window on the future of a green energy movement?
Well, I think when we talk about green energy, and I just got back from Europe where we were having these discussions, where literally German utilities are saying, do we heat the factory equipment just to keep it warm so it doesn't break? Not even producing anything, or do we heat our homes? You shouldn't have to choose between that, and unfortunately, we've allowed energy to become politicized. We should be talking about needing all the above energy, and that means a diverse mix. It's fossil fuels, it's renewables, it's everything, and we've got to get out of this merry-go-round that we're on.
I'm glad you mentioned that you just returned from Europe, because I've often looked at Europe as a forewarning of what could potentially happen here in the United States, because they've made a much more advanced transition to renewable energy than we have in the United States for the most part, and they're suffering the consequences for it. Are they re-examining that? I know, for example, after Fukushima, a lot of European countries, including Germany, dispensed with nuclear plants. Is there reconsideration of bringing nuclear back now?
Yeah, Doug, there is reconsideration, but even the Europeans are looking at it as a temporary fix. So Germany is going to keep 3 nuclear reactors online that were slated to be decommissioned at the end of this year. I think when you talk to European officials privately, they admit that their investment in renewables has only been made possible on the backbone of cheap Russian oil and gas. And now that that's been removed as a baseload energy source, they're running short. And they realize the shortcoming, but they're still committing to doubling down on renewables for the future. And, I think Europe is a harbinger of what could happen in America if we're not careful. And again, it's not that anyone should be opposed to renewables or over fossil fuels or vice versa. We need it all, and that mix will naturally change over time, but we can't be short-sighted into choosing one over the other right now.
I've often thought that this sort of top-down, government-imposed approach to energy usage is dangerous in the sense that it stifles creativity, it stifles new invention. You want people coming up with new technologies. Is there any new technology that awaits us, or that is maybe just a kernel ready to grow now that you're excited about or that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I think there are several things that we can and should be doing. First of all, fracking or hydraulic fracturing has been made possible through innovations. We need to unleash American oil and gas supplies. At the same time, new generations of nuclear reactors, microreactors, hold the promise. We often think of 3 Mile Island, but keep in mind, that technology is dated. We're able to drive a car from the 70s, typically day in and day out. We shouldn't think that nuclear power has stood still since 1976 either. And so there are things like that we can do. And we are investing in future, how to capture carbon, how to keep it from being emitted into the atmosphere. We need to do all of those, but when the government sticks its thumb on the scales, it tends to disrupt the market, and we're seeing that distortion right now in energy markets.
Well, one tangible example of that is President Biden's recent trip to Saudi Arabia, where they basically thumbed their nose, I should say, at him. Just a few years ago, we didn't need to go begging hat in hand to Saudi Arabia for natural gas or oil.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And I think we need to remember what life was like back in the 70s. And I was pretty young back then, but I remember being in line with my mom and dad. Is your license plate even or odd just to get oil? That's not fantasy. That actually happened to America. And ever since then, we've been bound and determined to become energy independent. And we got there. Instead of fighting wars in the Mideast over Mideastern oil and gas, America stood on the precipice of being energy independent. And now we're back to cajoling dictators and other leaders of countries that don't share the same democratic values that we do and the same freedoms that we do, begging them to produce oil. Something's wrong with this picture.
I'm always a bad news first kind of guy because I want to cut to the chase. I want to be handed the bad news first. What's the worst case scenario for this winter and for just, project out to a year ahead? What's going to happen to energy prices in this country?
Well, I think if you look at how much oil we're using, almost 20 million barrels a day, we're back to pre-pandemic levels. In fact, we've exceeded it. We're not using less oil, we're using more. The good news and the bad news is we're not producing as much. We're down almost 2 million barrels a day, which is why the president has been artificially releasing our strategic petroleum reserves. That's going to run out. He's doubling down on that before the election, but it's actually making gasoline prices cheaper than they're really going to be. And when that's empty after the elections, it's going to get worse. I think we could see another $1 or $2 easily. On the natural gas side, we're paying almost 3 times what we paid a year ago, in part because, again, production has been constrained and because we're trying to help out Europe by sending more oil compressed into liquid natural gas abroad. I think in New England, you're going to be paying 3 to 4 times what you were just paying a year or two ago for natural gas and propane, assuming you can get it. And I hope we're not going to have any widespread shortages.
For those widespread shortages to occur in a New England winter, it would be bad news indeed. Brigham McCown, we really appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate being on with you today.
And that's it for Centerpoint. Coming up next on TBN, join Chris Tomlin and Erica Campbell as they host this year's Dove Awards, the premier show honoring all the best in Christian music. Stay tuned to TBN. I'm Doug McKelway. Have a great weekend.
Welcome to the 5030 Rebecca Campbell and Chris Tomlin.
Good evening, world, and welcome to the 54th annual GMA Dove Award.
Thank you for joining us for the one special night each year that brings all the genres of gospel music together. This is our family reunion.
We're all ready to lift up and give God some praise, and I think we're off to a good start, would you say?
Yeah, how about that performance from Crowder? Everybody, come on.
Oh yeah, it looks like the audience is with us. Y'all are with us tonight, right?
I'm the same, but our message is the same. And that's one of the reasons we celebrate tonight. It's kind of diverse city, as my brother Toby Mack might say.
And I love how you and I can both sing about freedom in Christ, but it comes across a little different, like when you sing, "Chains are gone, I've been set free, my God, my Savior has ransomed me." That's a sweet sound of freedom.
That's much better than I've ever done it. I love how you kind of add your groove to kind of the same message. You know, yours is like, take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just want to praise you.
Hey,
I just want to praise you.
that's good. That's good. That's good. But I got another one for you. It's a little different though. It goes like this. I don't know if you can do it. I'm gonna say it. It goes like this. I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you?
You want me to do that?
Yeah, let me see.
I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you?
Nailed it. I love it. I love it.
Okay. Gonna be a night. The music created by the artists assembled tonight.
And Sneaky, he's top 5 among left-handers over the last 2 years. Gorgeous period in ERA. A year ago, he had a 136 ERA in a season that started with him in the minors. Came up as a low-leverage reliever, was a closer by midsummer, into the rotation by the end of the year. He's got very quickly, already his 3rd carry. Well, against a team like the Padres, we've documented this. If you're just tuning in, they take more pitches than just about everybody. And so if you get ahead of them, it's really tough for them to mess her up much because they want to work the zone and get their pitch. Strikes early and then off-speed late. This changeup, you can't tell the difference between the fastball and the changeup the way he throws it. The changeup was a pitch in particular he had a hard time getting the strike zone in the division series. He's been in there with everything so far in this one. The lefty Jake Cronenworth takes a strike. Cronenworth went 0 for 13 in the wild card round, but he's hitting close to 350 since. The one thing, inside he gives up a little. We talked about that. He doesn't miss many fastballs when he swings, though. 7% swing and miss on fastball. So that tells me he's staying on the ball, not trying to get too big with his swing. But you got to give something up, and he'll give up the inner part of the plate and look for middle away to do his damage. As far as goes, back to the inside, muscle to the left side of the infield. Bones stumbles and has no play. Well, that ball took a right turn. That's why he stumbled. It came in, and we're going to see the replay. This thing had tremendous English on it, and there was zero he could do about it. When you're coming in on a ball that's jammed off of you, you think, okay, it's going to chase me. But watch, it goes the other way. So it hit something because of the way that ball was hit. It should have gone to his right hand. It went to his glove side, and nothing he could do. That looked like a killer ping pong serve. Up the edge of the table. That's amazing. 35 miles per hour. I was going to say that's probably the softest hit in the series. We'll take it. And the Padres have their first base runner. Up comes Will Myers, who lays a bunt down, foul. Really, they have three guys for two spots in this lineup, Myers, Drury, and Bell, and they've kind of rotated. Myers had the only hit for the Padres in the first game and then wasn't in there in game two. And it wound up being a good decision because Josh Bell, of course, went back-to-back home runs with Drury. Today it's Drury and Myers that get those two spots. August tenured Padres, been there since 2015. Cup and misses at that high fastball, that sneaky high fastball, and that's what I'm talking about. Myers has that long swing that in the zone he's going to like to hit the ball. That's why they tried to climb the ladder and beat him upstairs with that four-seam fastball. He's pretty good elevated fastball hitter, but see how tight that was to his he wasn't able to pull his hands in to get the barrel of the ball. Suarez in his fifth year with time in the major leagues. Really, though, his first full-time year in the rotation. Back and forth between the pen and the rotation, the big leagues, and AAA over his first 4 years. Center over there, but Cornwood's in. So after going up with the fastball, you would think down in the lower third to outside part of the plate with a changeup or that breaking ball that he tried to bounce. And this season on breaking pitches away, Will Myers is 2 for 31. Yeah, and I would imagine most of those got to be about right. Sleeping, back in with the fastball. Couldn't ask for a better day in October for baseball. Did it feel like the postseason?
He worked with Republicans and Democrats that were to Utah. He was going to be accused of the bipartisan Utah president, and he voted against it. So if the voters in Utah want to elect, or the Senate another two presidents, and they think that the Bush's politician that is not a politician represents the politics of change Utah, they're going to do it. Because last year, not to go for the so this is a video that I have a question on another. And the part about what you said. that what you do. You caught the thief. So you know. So you're both here, you want to make, oh wait, here's the problem? It's separated this time. The mom is making money and doesn't want to use the baby. I want them. So you're here and if you were to sell this price of what happened? Nothing, right? There's no one. And if you sell, what are you going to want to do? Don't do it. And why are you doing this? I wouldn't have done that. I didn't get into the I didn't get into the I didn't get into the I wouldn't have done that. Okay. And, well, let's do something. Let's go. Like, why do you come up with one say, I don't know your life, tell me that way. Even when I tried to make you, even when I tried to make you, I did. So, this is to me like, who cares? The big problem is, according to you have a law. You can be present. Some people try to tell you that. I mean, you did it. What if I'm going to do something? This might go out to the way you got to get your daughter. You want that right? You want her? You want that? You get somebody else. You're looking for her. My daughter, my child's daughter said, I've never laid my hand out. That's the way I choose to raise my kids. When I was a kid, I got the credit $90 back for that. Okay? So it's different, right? I can't imagine. I don't like my hands up very well. I've been married to my wife for 22 years. I never, I didn't even think of anything. Let us like this. She didn't even necessarily, you will never spend another month if you never said. Right? Which is what? Cheap. Why gather evidence by yourself? You had sex with this woman. It was a couple seconds ago. It wasn't a long time ago. There's nothing else to read, nothing. I got to make enough to have a child. He lives his life as the rules leader in their marriage. That was for 18, 19 years. I was one of them. I don't know. I get so big. What did I do for you to do that? About your husband's food. I actually had a sister everybody for a year. Where's my car? It's not anybody that your car that you think is not your car, 100% online. Now you're creating a brand new way for your soccer car, whether it's a year-old or a 3-year-old. You can be wrong with 0 or 3-year-old. I'm somebody who believes that there should be no code of practice in the already, but there's a great tool, or otherwise, everyone who wants fire to do the job that is natural. So the contract is clear, and even Democrats in the House are saying, you know what, we have to go and do it in their probably don't have to go and do it. Never is. It's not what you will. I guess everyone wants to go and do it. Because you can't stop over the rest of the fact. It's almost as if it's hard to get where we are out here taking our tails off, we trying to support our borders, we are part of the same state. That's also what we're all in our process of to avoid really, her goal here is to see happy people. And we're not a voter out there, we don't take the right to talk to people. We're the people out here, we decided to have a contradiction law about that, and I don't How could you rule those two things? Well, you know what I'm saying. If you like to cheat, you said, let's practice and cheat. If there's that, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. If I'm not going to hide it, I'm not going to hide it. If I want to do it, I want to hold up to it. It's not, but you have the brief of the girl. Yes. And you thought that was a good idea to marry that. Not at all. But you said that if you then you received messages from the woman that said, oh, that baby was there, blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't know how to do that. Right. But I'm saying, you're doing it as it has to cover your right, and you have it with you do the answer. I don't have to why she has it with something that I'm like, what are you doing? Make it sound like you're yeah, I know that, but not going to be, I'm working on it 24/7, and I'm like, well, no, I guess I did. When I come home, somebody, oh, you're doing this, I'm not even going nowhere. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to talk to anybody. You never. No. What is it? I'm not going to get it. You're like, this would be, you know, whatever you want to see that. All I can do is if you fail, on my life, you want that. If you fail, you start to feel all the time. And the hearing, you fail. If you don't fail, you still are going to go home and give your best to stop for your answer. Very soon, yeah. I feel like this is a lot of so, right off the bat, to make instructions, use the trust that you have in instructions that was, with the woman from the street from after the street. When I'm seeing everything I'm saying, everything is on there, she knows about it, really. Well, she knows about it, she knows about it. Why are we here? She knows about everything. She knows about everything. She knows about it. Yeah. That's what this woman and you on our shoulder and you I knew about you a lot. Because we stand on each other, we can't help each other, you're not lying, you're lying to each other, I don't know what, but I want each other to live in that type of marriage. It's wonderful. And I know. Well, it's like the first time. Like that concept. I'll put that out on there and then that's that. I'm sorry, Tom, but I'm already in love with you. Nothing weird as I'm thinking about it. Now that I took the credit card limit, I need to give up the credit limit. The card has the karma guarantee. They'll give me $50 if I don't get it through. Get approved. I get $50 on offer with the karma guarantee. That's right. Travel and local on the State Shore, Simeon, Revolution State Shore. Go Club, Travel Dealership. Foreign registration. Real Heritage Night Fragrance. Go Club.
But I didn't
Come on over a little bit, Roddy. Come on. Well, I'm taking prevail. Your child is being abused by someone you thought you could trust, but also once he knows